Hello, everyone. My name is Rebecca Kelly, and you're listening to the Everywhere We Go podcast. On this week's episode, I sit down with Tracy Lally. Tracy is a makeup artist, a sister, a daughter, and a wife. But above all, Tracy is a mum. Tracy's raw emotion broke my heart last Christmas as she gave her followers a glimpse into her life as a co-parent. It's her first time to open up like this, and I'm so thankful that she did it with me. We talk about the beginning of her pregnancy on Tilly, the struggle she's faced with this, and the fact that she simply just didn't enjoy it. I love the fact that she's so open and honest about her journey, with Tilly's happiness and security at the forefront of everything she does. Her resilience and strength know no bounds. She tells me that she couldn't have done it without the support of her family, and simply glows as she talks about her Paul. We hope you enjoyed the story, and if you find yourself in a similar situation, we hope that it helps. Everywhere we go, people want to know who we are and where we come from. So who are you and where do you come from?
Hi everyone, my name is Tracy Lally and I am originally from Singles but now live in Baldoyle.
Hi Tracy, how are you?
How are you?
Sure, listen, it's mad out there and this is the first podcast that I've recorded, so thanks so much for sitting with me. Yeah, I know, I chose a good one. I chose a good one.
We'll see.
Yeah. Tracy, tell me, you have an Instagram page and I'm actually following you quite a while now because I love the stuff that you put on it. So tell me about the page.
Thank you. So I set up the page a few years ago now, mostly for makeup because I've been in the makeup industry for so long. So, you know, first it was Facebook, then there was Instagram. Instagram was kind of the way to be seen. So I set up the Instagram page and I would be kind of more so known for bridal makeup. That's what my forte is. And yeah, it just went from there. But I didn't think I would share much personal stuff because I can be quite private about things as well. You know, that's my decision. But I suppose I did start to share a little bit of my private life and I started to get really good feedback about it. So, you know, people were saying, you know, Tracy, thanks for sharing certain things. And, you know, it's good to see that people are in those situations and life is not all a box of roses, you know, that kind of way. So,
yeah. What were you sharing?
Most of all about, I started to kind of be honest about how hard being a single parent sometimes is. You know, like, I'm not a single parent now. Like, obviously I'm married, but there was a stage in my life where I was, and it was very, very tough. And I did keep a lot of it private. But as years went on and I started to kind of, you know, share my part of my story, as in what my road was as a single parent, a lot of people just really, I can't believe the amount of feedback that I do get when I be honest with people about how hard.
And the page is called?
The Makeup Mentor.
The Makeup Mentor.
And a lot of people, sorry, Rebecca, a lot of people don't know this. The reason when I did set up the page, the Makeup Mentor came from breaking it down. If you break it down, it's actually the mum. So when I started that page, I was just the mum. I was a man. Like I was just after becoming a man. And that's where a lot of people probably don't know this, but when you break it down, it is the mum. And that was my little thing that maybe eventually I will share my story.
Because Christmas, I was in bed, I was after being handed a cup of tea and I was watching Netflix.
Look at you.
Yeah. And all of a sudden I came across your story and it absolutely stopped me in my tracks. Because you were sending Tilly off to her dad's for 2 weeks for the Christmas period. And your pure raw emotion in that moment just hit me, not just as a mother, but it just hit me as a person, as a woman. It hit me and I just was like, holy shit, how is she doing that? There is so many women in your situation. And again, as you said, you being you, that you don't share this stuff. So we'll go into that and then we'll take it back to everything else if that's okay with you. Tell me about yourself. So you have your daughter. So tell me about Tilly.
So Tilly only just turned 8 there in November. She's mad. She's a great kid. I have to be honest, I'm very, very lucky with her because she's so resilient to stuff. And I just know that we've both done well along the lines with Tilly because we've always made sure that Tilly is number one, you know. So, I mean, she's very grounded and she's just a good kid. And I know a lot of people probably say that about their own kid, but I'm actually really blessed that she's just kind of like, oh yeah, okay. Everything's grand, you know. So, I mean, she's a good kid, so I'm very lucky.
So tell me about that relationship with her father and where that fell down for you to have to co-parent. So talk to me through that.
Okay, well, Tilly's dad and I were together for many years. It comes down to me not being well, really. I think Tilly was about 8 months old. I was told I was suffering from a thing called, they reckon it started while I was pregnant. It was called prenatal depression. So they did say, this is probably after getting worse since you had Tilly. And I'm not going to lie, I probably wasn't the easiest to live with either, but I wasn't well, so I'll never apologize for that part of my life either, because it was a situation where I didn't ask to be sick. I didn't ask to feel the way I felt. It was very tough. Probably the toughest thing I've been through in my life, because it's made me never want to have another baby.
Really?
Which is, it's just, I'd never put myself through that again. And it is, a lot of people say, Tracy, you might never feel the same again. I'm like, no, I just couldn't. It's like 50-50. What happens again if you go through that again? And I mean, I've spoken to my husband Paul, and we've spoken about like kids, and I'm just like, I'm too afraid, like I'm terrified that I'd be put back. And I wouldn't be, maybe I would, it's kind of like, you don't know. But it came down to that, and obviously Tilly's dad and I broke up, and it was tough.
Can I ask you, how did the depression manifest itself with you and in the house?
So basically what happened was, I'm the eldest of 3 girls in my family, and my mum is a lady. My dad's super. I always kind of felt like this wasn't going to win. This wasn't going to take over. I'm strong enough to be able to get through it. And not that I ever felt like there was any pressure put on me to be this person. I always felt like Tracy has it together. Tracy will get through it. But I couldn't. I actually could not. And I think when I needed to be saved, there was no one there to save me. Even though I could have had, like, my whole family was there. But there was this thing in my head that, no, I need to get through this. And there was such a stigma in my head that I can't be known to have a child and not be with that person. I don't know. That thing just stuck in my head so much that I was like, I just don't want to be on my own. And, I think I'll just stay here because that's the best thing to do and blah, 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 But listen, in the end, it wasn't. Depression took over in a way. Like, it came down to even the curtains not being closed properly. Like, I could notice that they were just, it was just crazy, Rebecca. Like, if I sat down and told you all the little things that used to drive me potty, you'd actually say, oh my God, Tracy, how did you cope? Because it came down to matching knife, matching fork with me dinner, OCD. I had OCD. I can't explain the person that I was, because to me, that person was not me.
Mm.
It's not who I would have been known of. Depression set in a way that I thought nobody could look after me the way I looked after. And I literally, I'd be like this, I'd be shaking, going, oh God, is she all right? I think she'll be grand. So it was just, my mind never stopped. It never stopped.
And with your partner, like, we expect as women that our partners to be our champions, to be the people that, can see there's something wrong with us, but it doesn't always happen. And was that the case with you?
You know what? I can't say a bad word about them, because in that sense, I just don't think men are designed the way we are. I just don't think men are probably designed to cope when we're not coping. And that's one thing that I've massively accepted in my life, is that they just can't help us sometimes. And that was a massive thing for me, is that I just felt men are just not like us. They're not built to know what's going on in their heads sometimes, but we really expect them to sometimes. Maybe sometimes they do. But in my case, I just felt I was such a closed book that I didn't want anybody to know.
And there was shame then with it as well, was there?
God, yes. Like, the biggest step for me was actually leaving, leaving. It was tough. And I mean, tough on him as well. But I mean, it was the best thing for both of us. And it was the best thing for Tilly. Tilly was just under 2. And it was only, I went to the doctor, and I always remember I was so hell-bent set that no one was going to know how I was feeling, that, I wasn't a failure. This was not happening to me, and I wasn't going to let it win. But I remember going to the doctor, and the doctor said to me, Tracy, are you okay? And I just went, oh my God, the floodgates just opened. I was like, someone is actually saying to me, are you okay? And I was like, she literally was like, and I remember still to this day, she did actually ask Tilly's dad to leave the room, that she just wanted to speak to me alone. And it was then she said, Tracy, why is it so hard for you to say what's wrong? And I was like, because I'm supposed to cope, because I'm supposed to be a mom. I'm supposed to have it all together, you know. And she was like, no, you're not. No, you're not. And it's okay if you don't. You know, if you have a sore throat, you get an antibiotic. If you have a sore head, you get an antibiotic. You know, like this was normal for her. Whereas like with me, I always remember even the nurse coming to see like a few months after Tilly. And she said to me, your house is very clean. And I was like, what do you mean? Like, that doesn't mean I'm not looking after Tilly. And she was like, no, I'm not saying that. She goes, I'm just saying like your house is really, really clean. But I was so on the defense. So I was like, why is she saying my house is like, it's clean? Is there something that she's saying that I'm not? I was always like ready to go, you know, like ready to be like on the defense. Well, I'm doing a great job. You know, it was crazy, the stuff that went on in my head.
Beverly Coughlin, she spoke about the same, and that was the exact same thing. The nurse said to her, how are you keeping this house clean? And she had the OCD through her depression as well. So it's like
that was me,
a common symptom of it.
Well, what the doctor told me was it's a chemical imbalance of your hormones. So the fact that like you're so up and down, like I remember she did medicate me at that time. And that was a very, very tough thing for me to digest, because it got to the stage where I was like, why do I need a tablet to make me happy? I have everything I thought I needed in life to be happy, and I'm still not happy. So I didn't understand why she gave me these tablets and I had to take them in order to put a smile on my face. Like, it was very, very tough. And I remember one day I just went, you know what? I'm actually not taking these anymore. And I didn't. And I went bang, like I hit rock bottom.
Did you?
And I would probably recommend anyone never to do that, because it spiraled. Like, it really got worse then.
And were you still with Tilly's dad at that stage?
Yes. Yeah. So, like, I mean, I do think at this stage, it's you know, it's mad. If he even heard me saying this, it's probably something that he never knew. I kind of only started to see these things after I started to get myself better. So, I mean, our relationship was always going to break down anyway. So, I mean, I don't blame what I went through for the breakdown of the relationship. I just think it was something that was going to happen anyway. It didn't help the situation, but like, I mean, again, I won't apologise for being sick.
Of course.
You know, I didn't ask for that. So it's one thing that I'll always say is that open up, talk, because it was the worst thing that I didn't do. And there's one thing that will always stick in my head with my dad. I think it was about 6 weeks before I left the house that I lived in. My dad said to me, Tracy, you okay? And I was like, yeah. Like, I was worried, thinking he knew something was wrong. Like, you know, I was like, yeah, why you asked me that? And he was like, you know, if you're not happy, or if nothing, like, if nothing isn't what you thought it was going to be, or, you know, you're not okay, you could always come home. And that just meant I can come home. And something just clicked with me, and I went, right, that's where I need to be. And it was mad. Even though I had moved into a home, I didn't feel like it was my home. You know what I mean? So it was like,
it's the biggest issue for women. I think we feel, and even men maybe, I don't know, because when I talk to my friends and talk to other people in circles, and they say the fear of leaving with your child and thinking that you've nowhere to go, that no one can help you and nothing. So for your dad to tell you that day must have been huge relief for you.
Oh God, it was like an opening to, you know, welcome back. Like, you know, it was crazy. That's how it happened. Like, I just went, right, I actually have a place to go.
And what did that day look like? You know? Tell me, you woke up and thought, this is the day I'm gone?
You know, it's crazy. I actually remember going down to the Chinese, having beef and black bean. And I just went, this is it. And I just said to his dad, like, I'm going home and need to leave. And in fairness, he knew it was it as well. You know, he wanted out just as much as me, I think. But, you know, it's I don't regret anything either. You know, I don't regret what happened. I have no regret.
And tell me then, how do you start the whole, okay, sit down, or did you sit down? Do you go like, okay, when do you want to see her? Do you want to see her? Are you going to let me see her? Because how does that process start? Like, because this is the thing that people are like, oh my God, he doesn't want her. He wants her. He doesn't want to see them. You know, he doesn't care. I have to fight to get him to see them. Like, how did that story start for you?
Really, it kind of just worked out, I suppose. You know, there was times where, it's not going to lie, like there was times where it was tough and you do get into rows and you do get into arguments. But sometimes, like what happened with me was all my strength and all my hate and everything that I went through went into the ending of that relationship. So when I left, I just had no want to be fighting, on text messages, anything like that. So, it did happen, but eventually it just kind of fizzled out, we did sort of have to, sort it out legally and stuff like that. And that's fine. But it took about 2-3 years, I'd say, to actually get there. I'll be honest. Paul, my husband, has an awful lot to do with how I got there. If it wasn't for him, I actually don't think I'd be where I am now.
When you went home then and your dad was like, look, you're home till he's here. This is your home from now on. Did they just swoop in and take over? And do you feel huge relief? And is your mental health getting that bit starting to get better?
It's gas. When I went home, like I remember texting my sisters and I was like, whatever you do, don't tell me mum and dad, I'm just coming home. And they were like, okay. So my 2 sisters came up and helped me move back to the house. And I got back to the house and my dad came in, he sat in the back room, he said, well, are you all right? So that's the way my dad is, And I said, I just not like that. I am now. It was like someone was after jumping off my back. And he said, Tracy, you'll be okay. And I was like, right. Went and done a wedding the next day. And I'll never forget it. I could still see the bride and we still keep in touch. And I sobbed the morning of our wedding. I actually sobbed. And I was like, I'm so sorry. And she was like, Tracy, oh my God. I was like, it's your wedding day. Like, I was so upset. But I just felt like, like it was the way it hit me was like just a massive wave of emotion, and I was just like, oh my God, I cannot believe this happened tomorrow of a wedding. And she always keeps in touch, it's crazy. Even after that, and listen, it's either, just get up and get on with it, really. From there, it just has to keep going. I have someone to look after.
Yeah.
I couldn't sink. I had to swim.
And you had good support around you then with your mum and dad?
Massively. My mum and dad are absolutely amazing. And without them as well, I wouldn't be able to have the job that I have. It's just like Tilly obviously lived with my mum and my dad for a while. And then when I moved in with Paul, like it was the thing where she had to have a sleepover every weekend, going back to my mum and dad because they missed her. She's the only grandchild, so they missed her. So it is like, my sisters and all were brilliant. And going back to how I got myself out of that mess was my dad has a friend called Niall Bourne. And I'm actually giving him this shout out because he deserves it. We call him Fat. But he was a boxing trainer. And Jeannie Mac, did he help me? So like, he'd be actually shouting at me at the bag, going, come on, who do you see? Just hit that bag, and I'd be like, ah!
And who did you see?
And I'd come out and I'd be like, I just seen anger and aggression and red and everything that you could think of. I just seen. And when I came out of that class, I was like, that was deadly. Yeah. I have to go back tomorrow. I was really boxing probably 4 times a week. And I did it for a long time.
Did you?
Yeah. I firmly believe that was one thing that helped me, was the boxing. And I wouldn't have been able to do that only having my mum and dad there. Like my mum and dad say, Tracy, go, get out the door, go.
Yeah.
You have to go to your boxing class. They knew it was helping me. So, and it was crazy as well how it worked out, because I would have worked in makeup from my kitchen at that time. And then I found a place in Finglas Village. And Stacey from Luscious Locks actually was renting a room, and I was like, right, this is another step now forward. This is something that I have to do, and got some help from myself. And it's just, I think Kitty was still in the chair, in a car seat at that time. It was all kind of things that started to happen, kind of one after the other, that kind of way.
And tell me this, you said there about there was tough times at the beginning with her dad and setting out the time, like, for anyone going through a tough time, and you were lucky that he wanted to see her, like he wanted to see her, or like so he did want to see her, yeah.
He did, yeah, massively, and still does. Like sometimes I'm like, right, she has to come home, you know. But I mean, I suppose I'm lucky in that kind of perspective, you know, that there is someone there that wants to be completely in her life, you know. But listen, it wasn't always easy. But you know, you're going to have to face these things. I always believe, and I've always said this to myself, is that your heart doesn't hurt unless it can heal. And that is a massive thing I would live by, because you don't understand at that time why you're going through this. But it's me looking back now going, I actually know why I went through that. It's to make me see that I am strong. And, you know, I am. There's one thing I will say, and it's not to kind of big up myself. It's the fact that I actually am very proud of where I've come. Because a lot of people have said to me, how did you do it? How did you get through that? And it was the support. You just need to surround yourself with, don't be afraid to tell people that you're not coping. Don't be afraid that they're going to look down on you, because people are there with open arms if you open up.
Yeah.
You know, and it's one thing I have to say. And the best advice I can give someone is, if they're going through a breakup and they have kids, is don't be listening to people that haven't been in your situation. That is number one thing for me. It's like, I wish people had a I wish there was a book, and they were going to say, listen, this is going to happen in your life, and this is what you have to do to get through it, and this is going to be your happy end, and this is going to, you know, be the breaking, you know, as in like the cut off point of what's going on. And there isn't that book. You have to write your own book. And I just think listening to people that have not been through the same things as you is not a great thing either.
Because everyone is there.
Too many opinions.
Yeah, everyone's there to offer advice that they don't know about. And that's the worst thing. And seeing what you said there about support, and a lot of us might think that we don't have the support, but we do, as you said, to open up and make sure. Tell me that about opening up to people. Like
I did be a counsellor as well. Like it was something that I had to do. And for me, I feel sometimes I thought it was good to go to a stranger and not to be judged. But then I realised that stranger was still a stranger to me, and it just wasn't getting me anywhere. I just felt I was strong enough to kind of do it myself. In the end, I did stop going to the counselling, and I don't regret, you know, doing it. I feel like I've done pretty well just being able to help myself.
And then when you broke up, like, did you lose friends through it, or like did you see people in a different light, or?
Well, you always do. Like, you know, you lose kind of a lot of people that you've made over the way, or that you've made over the years. But I mean, when you think about it, those people that you lose are probably just acquaintances anyway. You know, so it's only people that you know just because you're actually in a long-term relationship. Same way in any relationship you'll always gain friends from that. But I mean, you lose them along the way anyway when any relationship breaks up. So they weren't really long friendship relationships I was losing, you know.
And if you,
I've always had my own friends.
Yeah, and is that important that you always keep your own friends?
100%. Never, ever, ever leave yourself alone or reliant on making friends through a relationship either, you know. You have to have your own. Definitely.
And what would you say to anyone at home now listening to this and thinking that they're alone? That they don't, and that he does everything, you know, and it's his finances, and it's his, and I'll never make it on my own, I'll never get away, and you know, what would you say to that girl?
You know what, that's like, I mean, a lot of people, like, I've been in that situation. I have been that girl that has thought like that, and I've come to know over the years so many people that are in my situation, and they eventually get through it too. Like, you know, that's what I'm saying. You just don't. That's the mistake that you make first, all is that you think you're alone and you put yourself in the depths of despair, and you're like, I'm not telling anybody. I'm just going to keep getting on with it. And I think you have to get up sometime and just go, you know what? I'm not going to be this person anymore. I'm not going to keep thinking negative. I just have to get up and say, right, this is the start of a new day, a new life, and I'm just going to have to embrace it. You know, stop worrying about what happened and just embrace what's going to happen.
Very true.
You know.
Tell me about the legal side of it. Like, why do you go there? And do you 100% say that's where you need to go, even if you are best friends?
No, I'll be honest. I always think that I think your feelings and your heart are still there as well. I think that's what happens. And it's so easy to go, I'm bringing you to court, blah, blah, blah. But it's not. Do I look back now and regret doing that? Yes. Because I think the only people that you made rich there are the solicitors. Well, that you made happy there are the solicitors. They're the ones that line in their pockets in the end, you know. When really, I do think that if it's a mutual decision and you know that it's not working out, you should be able to sit down and iron out the flaws. But listen, some people can't. And I mean, courts are there for a reason. You know, people's situation are different to mine. Like, it could be worse. My story could be little to them compared to what they're going through, you know. So, do I think it was a waste of time? Yes.
Do you? And what does that process look like for someone who's sitting at home going, I need to go down the legal route. Where do I start? What do I do?
A lot of people are afraid. A lot of people are afraid because they have this thought of like, oh my God, court is the worst thing ever. And it's not. It's actually not. I think at that stage, it was like, oh, go back here again.
Right.
You know, but I mean, don't be afraid of it. It's there for a reason. It's there to help you. And sometimes an awful lot of like women and men do get help from the court because some people just can't agree. You know, and it's there for a reason. But I mean, it's not to be afraid of either. It's there to help you. That's one thing I will say is that if people are worried about going down that route, don't be. It's there for a reason.
And then tell me about Paul. When did you meet Paul? At what age was Tilly when you met Paul?
It's so crazy when I talk about Paul, because I remember before I met Tilly's dad, I had seen him at a bar, and I still to this day can't remember, but I remember he had longish hair, this kind of David Beckham style, and he had a hairband on it, and I was like looking at him going, he's all right. And I didn't see him ever again. And we used to have Friday nights over in a friend of mine, so one of my friends and myself was single at the same time. And the girls were saying, can you try to go on to Tinder? I was like, I am not going on to Tinder. And they were like, why not? And I was like, no, it's just not for me. Like, I don't want to go on to Tinder, thinking that, like, you know, a fellow would still come to the bar and probably chat you up. But no, That's not the case anymore. Because I was in a relationship for 9 years, so I hadn't a clue. So, anyway, a few more drinks, and I was like, right, come on, I'll go on to Tinder. And I went on to Tinder, and I remember going home, and I was lying in the bed, and I was swiping in the hair. I was, no. And next all I came to this picture of a fella in the blue shorts with glasses, and I was like, that's your man. That's your man from years ago. So I swiped right, and then I had you and him as being matched, and that was on a Friday night. And we were talking all the way through Friday night, nearly in, like, early Saturday morning. He's a taxi man, so he was on night. And I went out with the girls on Saturday night, and he picked me up and brought me into town. And we just hit it off from there.
So you told him straight away about Tilly, did you?
Oh, yeah. Sure, like, I mean, something to hide. Very proud of her, you know. She comes with me, so they can't accept Tilly. They're not going to be accepted by me.
And how was she with him then?
Loves him. Absolutely loves him. You know, and like Paul, like, was a pillar of strength for me, because I mean, going through that, still like going through legal stuff and all that, you know, sometimes I'd be like, oh, you know, I'd be real hot-headed, and he'd say, Tracy, just relax. And I don't know what it was. He just had this way of just making me calm. And my mum used to say, he's the one for you. And I'd be like, shut up, Willie, how do you know? And she'd say, Tracy, I'm telling you, the way he just calms you down. Because I am a very fiery, hot-headed person. Well, I would have been. I think being a mother has kind of calmed me down a lot as well, you know. But he'd be like, where are you going to get being hot-headed? Where are you going to get, you know, losing the head? And I'm like, oh, yeah, so I just used to go, okay.
And how long after that did you meet him? Like, so what was it, the time difference?
About 6 months.
And you just fell in love straight away?
Yeah, it was mad, because I always remember being on a date, and I think it was we went on the Wednesday. We were in Malahide Castle. I remember going back to my friend, at the time, my business partner, Leona. And I was like, oh God, like, he's real nice, and he does all this, and, you know, like, if you think that's mad, like, you think like, what do you think he wants? And she's like, no, Tracy, he's just a nice fella. And I was like, right, okay. I was just real like, I'm not used to this. Like, it was weird. But yeah, I kind of think I knew probably about 3 or 4 months now. I wouldn't be putting myself into this, because I think when you go through such a hard time in past relationships, you won't tolerate crap, the older that you get. So you kind of know, is this worth it or not? And I did probably after about 3 or 4 months kind of going, I'm actually head over heels about this fella, So I didn't tell him that.
Of course. Keep him on his toes.
Wait for him to tell me first. You don't want to admit it first.
Yeah, I have to say, your face lit up when you mentioned his name, dude. I actually wrote down a little note about that. So, God, yeah, that's.
Don't tell him.
I know. Don't you probably listen to this now? Like, I told you, I'm mad about me all those years ago.
He will, believe me, he will say that.
And then,
so
he was helping you then through it all. The legal case and the court case and so on. So then Tilly's dad, at what point does he meet someone else? And then do you have how do you have the conversation about Tilly in the process? Do you know what I mean?
It was before me, so before I had met Paul. And it was a hard kind of pill to swallow. And I think that was what I was so worried about. Was I was like, Tilly's after being through so much, and we just have to make sure that she's not being thrown into these things. And I just always wanted to make sure that Tilly was going to be okay. So I think we went to court 3 times, and Christmas came up, and his partner lives in Carlow, and I allowed Tilly to go down, and it was the hardest thing. But I knew she's actually a lovely girl as well. Like, she's a lovely girl. I can't say a bad word about her, because how she looks after Tilly is how she would look after her own, So anything that she does, she just includes Tilly in it, or she's great at making things like from scratch. And, like, she makes Christmas decorations for us there, and she lets Tilly do it, stuff like that, So, I mean, the adjustment was hard, but I mean, I kind of had to say to myself, would I prefer to have someone in Tilly's dad's life that is trying to take them away from Tilly? Or would I prefer to have someone in Tilly's life that wants to be part of Tilly's life?
Yeah.
And that answer was easy to me.
And the initial stages of that is like, I can only imagine the fear. Is there fear that, what if Tilly really loves her? And, like, so some women out there feel that way, that we feel, are they going to take her away from me? Are they going to think to have more fun with them? Like, does that go through your mind or not?
Yeah, like, I mean, you can feel like that, but you have to be, like, you have to remember as well, and this is very true, because it was said to me, as in, when Tilly goes down to her dad and she sees his wife as well, it's a fun time for her to go down, and, she gets to have a great time. But then when she comes back to me, normal life, it's the strict man, the one that has to tell her no, the one that has to give out to her sometimes because she's not doing what she's told, and that's just normal life. So, I mean, yeah, I think women sometimes are too hard on themselves, because the kids come back and they're delighted with life, and, they're like, oh, she's having a better time down there. But it's not. It's her little safe haven to go to, and a break away from your mum, I suppose. But then when she comes back, I just don't think, like, yourself, I'm sure no one will ever take your mother's place.
No.
Nobody. So, I mean, no matter how, don't be so hard on yourself. Yeah, she probably had a great time, but she still idolises her mammy. And that's why I say, like I said, you can't be too hard on yourself, because we are great people. We take on a lot, and we always look after them, number one. So, just don't be too hard on yourself.
Tell me, first of all, how COVID has been. Obviously, she hasn't been near her dad with COVID, or what was...
So, Tilly's dad is high risk. So, Tilly wasn't able to go down to her dad. It was something where he had to make sure that he was okay. And unfortunately, that did mean that he probably might not have been able to see Tilly. So, the doctors did advise him, we just don't think this is good for you. Putting yourself at risk. So that was in the March, and then Tilly didn't see him till the 41st of June.
Wow.
Yeah, it was so hard. I cried some days because Tilly was just like they have a great relationship. So, you know, how are you trying to tell your child that she can't see her daddy? And then as well, Tilly's dad has a little girl now with his wife, and Tilly didn't understand how is that child able to see her dad, or how is she able to be in the house and she's not. You know, so that's another thing what I said, going back to about, like, you wish there was a book written. I wish there was a book that said, we are going to have COVID, you know, there's a pandemic, you won't be able to see, and this is what you're going to have to do. But unfortunately, there wasn't. And the difference in this was that nobody had been in this situation ever before. Mm-hmm. You know, so I hadn't known to really give me advice. You know, and it was tough because I worried about Tilly's mental health at that time. You know, she went from seeing her dad to not seeing her dad at all. And she was like, at the stage, she was crying. Like, why can I not see my dad? And what do I say, Rebecca? Like, how can I tell her? She just can't.
And what did you do?
It was probably, I just had to keep reassuring her, like, you know, we were going to get there, and in order to keep our daddy safe. I'm not going to lie, it was very, very tough. It was very, very tough to be able to, like, all you want to do is keep our kids safe and, you know, make sure they're okay. And when you feel like, you know, if they ask you anything, they're worried about something, and you always have the answer to give them. This time I didn't. Mm-hmm. You know, because this was all new to me. And when I did start to share that story on Instagram, there were so many people in the same situation, even worse than me, you know. And it was really, actually, when she went to see her dad, it was, we had to get her tested.
Okay.
To make sure that she didn't have. So to me, because she didn't know what it was like, it was grand, but she's been tested 2 other times after. And the 4th time, she was like this. And I just said, no, not doing this again. It's just, we have to wait for our vaccine, you know, because it's just too hard on her. So anyway, that happened. And then she went to this, what was it, July then? She went down, and I allowed her to stay for 6 weeks. Yes, because I knew it meant so much to her. She didn't want to come home. That's the hard part. She just had so much fun because she hadn't seen him in so long. It was the best thing ever. You know, so I allowed her to go for 6 weeks. Was it tough? Yes, massively, but it wasn't as tough as Christmas.
So I work away, right? I work away a lot. I'm always abroad. Well, I always was abroad before COVID. And honestly, people say to me, sure, you're living the life, right? But day 3, I get the absolute fear in me, and I just want to see my kids. I just want to see them. Yeah. So how did you do that for 6 weeks? Obviously, just for Tilly. Yeah.
Like, I mean, I keep myself occupied, you know, I keep myself busy because she's, like, leaving today, like, because of lockdown and stuff like that. She's literally just, she's my wing woman. Like, you know, she's with me all the time. And I even remember going to shop sometimes, Rebecca, and I'd hear a man, and I'd be like, I turn around, I'm like, she's not with me. You know, it was weird. It was really, really weird. But, like, I mean, thanks God for WhatsApp and video call and stuff like that. Like, I mean, all I had to do was look at her face and go, you know, I'm doing the right thing. She didn't even care about me. She was delighted with life, having a ball. You know, she was like, yeah, man, I have to go now. I'm with my friends, you know. Like, it was like when I was ringing her, I was actually annoying her.
Yeah.
You know? But, yeah, in the end, like, me and my mum actually went down and took her for lunch down in Carlow because we hadn't seen her in those couple of weeks.
Oh, God.
And then she was like, Mum, I want to come home. And I was like, you can come home. I was just letting you know, but you wanted to, I think it was one of our friends' birthdays down there. I was like, but you wanted to stay. And she was like, no, I want to come home. I was like, right, that's grand, we come home. Then she got back to the house. She was like, no, I want to stay. And then she started to get upset. And that was very hard for me because I was like, someone needs to make a decision here for her. And it, like, at the time, she was 7. I was like, 7-year-old can't make that decision on her own. So I just said to her, listen, Tilly, I have to go and do a job. I'm going to go there with Nanny, and then I'm going to come back and get you. So I had said to her dad, let her stop getting upset. Let her see what she wants to do. And if she wants me to come back, I'll come back and get her. So 10 minutes later, I was like, right, Mummy, oh no, man, don't come back. I'm going to stay for my friend's birthday. She was grand.
And when you get in that car in that moment, what's that feeling like when you, after saying that to her?
Like, I was with my mum, and my mum was like, yeah, all right. And I was like, crying your eyes out. You know, it's the hardest feeling ever, like, is to drive away from your kids. Horrible. But my mom's like, Tracy, so happy. And I'm like, I know. I hate that.
Yeah.
I don't really, but you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know, but I mean, I could be in different situations, but I'm not. You know, so I always say I'm very lucky.
And then when do you sit down and have that conversation with yourself, with Paul, with whoever, that you're going to let her go for Christmas for 2 weeks?
I remember saying this to Paul, and Paul was like, I think you're amazing. And I was like, why? And he goes, because not many women would do what you do. And I was like, right. And then you're always worried in the back of your head going, are you doing the right thing? Like, you know, a lot of people feel the need to give you their opinion when really you don't really want it because they're not in your situation. There was an awful lot of people that have been opinionated about it. And really, to be frank, I don't really care about negative stuff. I just don't let negative come into my life anymore. So if I feel someone is being negative about something personal in my life, I just go, I don't want to know. I just switch off. You know, so I knew for me, and for Tilly, it was the best decision. Because then she hadn't seen him then. You know, so she was going down for Christmas and she was sending. And I remember, like, a lot of people were like, why are you letting her stay to New Year's Day? I didn't fight anything because, I mean, they don't really need to know that much information.
Yeah.
You know? So, yeah, it was just, it was a decision that I made. And I remember, like, I actually met him halfway. I drove to Naas Road. No, not to Naas Road, to Naas. And I met him halfway, and her little sister and his wife were there. And she just came over and she gave me the biggest hug, and my heart just fell into my stomach. And I just went, this is it now. Like, this is it. You know, and she was upset. She started crying, and I was like, I have to go. So I drove off, and I think I cried all the way home. But I knew, and then I got myself together, and that's when I came on to Instagram to speak about it, because I'm like, there were so many women that contacted me about being in the same situation during COVID, and I was like, I wonder what their situations are now because of Christmas.
And did her dad ask you to send her for that length of time, or did she ask? Yeah, your dad asked, because obviously she's
like not for that length of time. He was kind of like, can she stay for a good bit, you know? So we planned to take Tilly off school a little bit earlier. I think it was 2 days before the holidays, and she had her test done, and then she went down. And he had said to me there was like a New Year's thing where they'd all go out on the road and they'd be ringing the bells for the nurses and stuff like that, and the doctors that she wants to stay for. So I was like, right. So she came home New Year's Day.
And then,
if Silas asked me, if she hadn't rang me, Rebecca, and said, "Man, I want to come home," I would have been like, right. But I knew she wasn't going to do that. She has the best throat work, you know.
And how old is her little sister?
She is 2.
Oh God! So that must be lovely for her as well. And to see
her coming down on Christmas morning, like, where sister, it reminded me of me being young with my 2 sisters. You know, coming down the stairs. And I think I went to bed on Christmas night at 7:30. Didn't want the day, didn't care about the day, just wanted to go to bed. Yeah.
Oh my God, I know. I couldn't even begin to deal with my emotions watching that video, so I can't even begin.
I know, it was, I got the video. Listen, they don't send it to me to be upset, but Jesus Christ, was I just floored. And I think I was very quiet for most of the day. I was just like, you know what? I didn't even drink Christmas Day. Didn't even have a drink. Wanted to go to bed.
Paul spoiled you rotten that day?
He actually, it was funny. We were sitting here wrapping the presents till about 1 o'clock Christmas morning. And we had a drink with a glass of wine and stuff like that. And he said, you know what? I said, "What?" He goes, "I'm going to give you our presents now." I think he knew, like, Christmas Day was going to be too hard.
Yeah.
So he said, "I'm going to give you our presents now." And I was like, well, okay. So we had a bit of crack here in the kitchen, and, you know, it was grand. I was all right then, and went to bed the next day, or went to bed that night, and then the next day I was just like, I want to stay away from me. And it was funny because I woke up on Stephen's Day and I was like, right, grand now. Grand. had to get, I don't know what it was there Christmas Day, it just had to be gone. Just wanted it away.
And she's living their best life, you know. And as you said, when you ring her,
it's the best time ever. You know, and I'm ringing her then, and she's like, "Mom, I miss you and I love you, but like, you know, I want to just have me presents." And I was like, "Oh, here, I'm just being a nuisance." You know, she's no concept of things. She's no concept of time or what day it was really. Like, she didn't know how important it was for me. But that's why I say as well, like, we have no concept of the whole thing, as in how hard it is for our mom to actually let her go there. She doesn't have a clue. And that's the best way I want it to be, because Billy will never, ever, ever, ever know how hard it was.
You're some woman.
You know? It's funny, like, I mean, if you had asked me this when Tilly was 2, I would have been like, she's never gone there for Christmas. But like, I don't know. I just went, what's the point? Like, you know?
Take me back to that video that you put up. You must have got some amount of messages from women in that position.
Yeah. Like at some step, I did one night actually had to turn off my mobile data going to bed that night, because my phone was literally, it was just lighting all night. And I just went, no, I just have to turn it off. So I think I had to switch off really as well, because it felt strange from what I was saying, you know, because there was so much raw emotion that I remember that day I had a banging headache. And I was like, right, I have to go to sleep. I have to go, because I do say if you have a good sleep, you can take on the world the next day. So I did have to turn off my mobile data. At one stage, I remember looking at my inbox and there was 118 messages.
Oh my God.
That I hadn't read. And I was like, how? I still don't even know if I got back to anybody. Like, I tried my best to reply to everybody. The more messages, the kind of more, not that more important, but the important ones that I got back to, I felt, was the ones that were in a really bad situation. You know, and like, I mean, there was girls texting me about their own situation. I was like, Jesus, I'm actually luckier, you know, in this situation than what I am, than what I would be if I was in theirs, you know. So I just spoke to someone and was like, you know, keep the head up and, you know, we'll get there and it's not going to last forever and stuff. Like, maybe they got some comfort in things that I said, but they gave me comfort as well, because when I shared that story, they were like, Tracy, like, people actually stopping my mum on the street and saying that they watched my story and they were like, she is unbelievable. And I was like, I didn't expect that people would think that of me. Yeah, that's not what I put it out there for either. I was genuinely just trying to share my story. And I remember when I found it hard at the first lockdown, I got comfort in what people were sending me. And I think that's why I actually reached out to social media at that time, because I felt like I needed comfort. And then little did I know, people were actually getting comfort from me. You know, so, I mean, there is some sort of good things from social media, you know.
Because I don't think people do talk about it. And if they do talk about it, it's more so just that giving out, like, not in the sense giving out, because, but like going that bastard and this and that and him, like, but at the end of the day, you just still have to co-parent.
Yeah, and you have to remember as well, like, I mean, you broke up with them, but they're not broke up with your kids, you know. So you have to remember that relationship is always going to be there. And I think if you infuse a good relationship, you know, that you want that good relationship with your kid and their dad, it will work out in the end. Now, I do feel sorry for some women that just can't get that from the other side of that, you know, as in someone doesn't want to be part of that kid's life. And my heart breaks for those people, because I'm like, how could you not? You know, so that's why I think I am the way I am, because I don't want Kitty to ever be that kid that doesn't have a relationship like that. You know, and I know it means a lot to her.
And there's some people that aren't as lucky as you, in the sense that. Yeah.
And my mom even said to me, Tracy, like, you're one of my 3 daughters, and even still, I would have never, ever, ever thought of you being able to do that. Like, I think I even surprised my mum. You know, she knew, like, even my mum was crying. You know, because, like, I mean, Tilly is like the apple of their eye. You know, so hard for them. I know my mum as well and my dad didn't enjoy Christmas Day because she wasn't there. You know, but the way I see it is now, my sister is actually expecting, and I'm so excited, because, like, this is me first. She's having a care, so it's me first meet, like, you know. But I'm so excited because this Christmas, Tilly's going to be here. So what we've now decided is that Tilly will be here with me this year, and next year she'll be with her dad. So we're going to do a vice versa.
Did you ever do that before?
Here 1 year, won't be here. Did we?
Yeah, did you ever do that before?
No. So that's what we decided to do.
Oh my God.
Yeah. She's a little bit older now, so I'm like, right, this is what she wants. And it's so funny. She's like, man, you've had me for 8 years. And I was like, yeah, I know. She's like, yeah, but like, it's time to just share. She's so funny. And I was like, yeah, and she didn't think about it then. So next year when I'm with you, I'm going to have my baby cousin with me as well. So it's going to be great. So I mean, you have to laugh the way she sees things, Sometimes I'd love to see life through a kid's eyes.
Yeah.
Not a worry in the world.
And all they see is love.
Yeah. So I mean, what more can you ask for?
And come here, tell me this. You touched on Tilly's dad's wife. Like, you put up a post about her, and I was like, seriously, you had me in an awful state.
It's so funny. Yeah, it is. Like, sometimes I text her, she texts me photographs. She always texts me photographs of Tilly when she's down there. And that's why I'm like, it's not that hard then, because I know what she's doing. I know what she's up to, and I talk more than I talk to his dad.
Really?
Yeah.
Isn't that great? Because, some women are just brilliant, you know what I mean? And for that relationship, and again, obviously she must love Tilly so much to...
She does, yeah, she does. Yeah. And she's very good to my family as well. So that's another thing. So that's why I'm saying I am lucky that I'm in that situation. And an awful lot of women don't understand, how do you let things go, and, how do you get over all the crap that happens and all. I'm just like, because you just have to.
Mm. And
just have to.
do you, like, a lot of thing with it, and with kind of the animosity and, it's just let things go. It's to do with love, like that they're so still in love with the father, and you know what I mean, because it might be the woman who wanted to leave, you know what I mean. So I think that has a big part to play in it.
It's a massive thing, and I do always get asked. Like, a lot of people would say to me, "Oh, like when we were going through all the hard stuff of it, like court and legal proceedings and stuff." I remember people say to me, "Oh, I bet you hate him," and I'd be like, "No, I don't," because to me, hate is a feeling, and if you have a feeling for something, there's still something there. I just felt nothing, because the relationship was over. So, I mean, in order for me to hate him, I had to feel something, and I didn't. It's just something that I had to go through in that time in my life.
That is like, what's that one? Like an epiphany? Like, that's just like a pure epiphany that, you have to feel something, and you just didn't feel anything.
No. And that's like, it was crazy, because I mean, there's no disrespect to him. It was just the way it happened. It was just like, right, this is it now. This is a new life, and I just have to move forward. And it's like, I don't regret any bad part of what happened, because it made me who I am. And I would never accept it again, ever.
Good. And hopefully people out there now get a little bit of comfort in that conversation.
Hopefully, yeah. Hopefully.
Tell me about the depression then. So after that point, and you met Paul, did the depression stay with you, or did it completely pass, or have you COVID?
I'm not going to lie. There is times where, oh God, COVID, it's mad that you even mentioned that. I remember it was the Thursday at Cheltenham, and it was the week of when lockdown was going to come. And Paul always goes out with friends, one or two nights out of Cheltenham week, and this day he was out for Cheltenham. And I packed my case. I was actually looking at something on social media, and it was like people were just dropping on the streets in China and all, and I was like, oh my God, I felt completely out of my depth. And it was what I felt like, where I felt when I didn't feel safe anymore after having Tilly. And I remember texting Paul going, can you come outside? And when he came out, I had my suitcases packed. And he was like, what's damage? And I was like, I have to go home. I have to go home to my man. I have to go home to my dad. I have to make sure everybody's all right. I just really hit like bottom. And he was like, Tracy, if you need to go, you need to go. Like you just, get your stuff together, and, you'll be grand. So I went over. I just had to stay with my mum for 2 or 3 days. And she was like, Tracy, you just have to do as you're told. You have to stay safe. You have to wash your hands. You have to do this. You have to do that. And I was like, right. So I think I stayed there for 2 nights. And I was like, well, I have to go home because I'm married.
Yeah.
So, but it did hit me. And like, I mean, there is sometimes, like I had a really bad panic attack. So there is times where I have been challenged or it can get in on me, but I have to learn how to get myself out of it. And I did. And I just went, right, so it is. And Paul is always in the back of my head going, you just have to get on with it. Just have to get on. That's Paul's famous saying. You just have to get up and get on with it.
He seems like so just chilled out, relaxed.
Oh, he's that chilled, he'd fall into the next last week. That's just the way he is. And he's so blunt as well sometimes that you're kind of going, did you say that? But then you kind of go, he has a point, really. Yeah. And I hate admitting that, but I do.
Come here, can I ask you about what you said, that you don't want to have another child?
Yes, you can, yeah.
How does he feel about it?
He's fine. He has 2 kids as well, and I have 1, and I call it the Brady Bunch, and we're happy out.
Okay, so he has a child. Paul has his own child as well.
He has 2.
He has 2. Okay.
Yeah, he has 2. Yeah. So we're happy out.
You're happy out.
Why try and fix what not broke? What isn't broken? That's the way I see it. And it was gas. Like, I mean, the minute we got married, people were like, "He's gonna have a baby now. He's gonna have a baby," and I'm like, "Why is that really ignorant to people sometimes?" Because not everybody knows people's situations. That kind of way.
True.
Well, listen, I mean, there is times where a couple of months ago I was kind of going, will I, won't I, will I, won't I? I'm kind of finding myself vulnerable sometimes, and I'm like, I can't go back to doing that again. I just can't. I don't feel like we're missing anything.
Yeah.
And I'm like, our kids we've 8, he'll be 14 and she'll be 18. And I'm like, right, what's the point? Like, they're half rare.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
We can enjoy our life in a few years. We've definitely made that decision that there's no more babies.
And was it initially down to you with the depression that you, as you said at the very beginning, that because I think with a lot of women is that they do have the fear of having baby number 2, that they're afraid that there's going to be a continuation through pre or postnatal depression.
Well, I had said this to Paul, actually. I said to him this time last year was that I feel sometimes hard done by. And
in what way?
It's actually in the sense of when I found out I was pregnant, it wasn't a happy thing for me. I was like, oh God, I always had the fear of God in me. Whereas it was like, I didn't know what to do. I was like... And
you weren't young. It wasn't that you were young having her...
No, I was 29 when I had Teddy.
So where did the fear come from?
Well, I don't know. It's just because I didn't have... Like, I was still living at home with my mum and dad. And so was Teddy's dad. And then, so what happened was I went from being having like kind of that life that, you didn't have any worries, you didn't have anybody to look after, living in your mum and dad's house. And then it went from being pregnant, living with someone, doing up the house, having a baby, becoming a man, and it just went crash, So, like, as I said to Paul, I just feel that I never got that, I never got that one, or even, I never got lucky, I suppose, to be in a relationship with someone and plan that baby and be delighted that I was going for a scan or be delighted that I was going to have this baby. Everything that I remember with Tilly being pregnant on her was absolute fear. And I remember going for scans and I'm like, I want to get out of here. I don't want her touching my stomach. Like, it was horrible the way I felt. Horrible. I remember, like, even with the depression, sometimes I used to just look at Cindy and go, this is all your fault. And that is, like, that, even for me to say that, it's probably the hardest thing for me to admit. And I remember even saying that to the counselor, she was like, Tracy, it was how you felt at that time, like you weren't well. And I'm like, so I think it's disgusting to me to ever think like that. And I really did struggle with that I did think that it was all, like, if Tilly hadn't been here, I wouldn't have been in this situation. And that was a massive thing for me to get over.
Mm.
So that was a struggle.
But you were sick, that's something that you just have to go, like, I was sick, you know what I mean? That I only felt like that because I was sick.
So the reason why I'm in the thought of mind that I'm in now, though, having another baby, is that I don't want to ever, ever feel like that again. And they do say if you have had it, there's more chance that you probably will have it again. And I'm just like, no. Like, I mean, my pregnancy was horrific. Everything that you could have got, I got. Nosebleed, STD. I had, like, it's called symphysis pubis dysfunction. My pelvis was out of place. I had carpal tunnel syndrome. You name it, I had it. And I just hated being pregnant. Absolutely hated it. So I don't feel any joy or anything like that. And I feel sad even saying that. I don't feel any joy when I think about being pregnant, which is absolutely heart-wrenching sometimes.
Yeah, but
when I look at people on Instagram about being pregnant and stuff like that, I'm like, here I am. I love how happy they are. I love how things, but then I have to think on, it's not real sometimes. It's not real sometimes, and I need to take a step back and go, right, Tracy, everybody's in a different situation. But that was my story.
I'm glad you said that you're happy, because I roll when I see pregnant people and on Instagram, and they're like, this is just the most amazing thing in the world. It's not. It's like, for me, it's not. And for most people, it is. And you know what? I'm not happy for you, but I'm like, yeah, you do you. I'll do me. But it's not something that I found as, the most joyous occasion in my life, being pregnant,
Yeah. But like, I mean, some people, I know, Rebecca, but like, I mean, some people are so different. Like, they embrace it. And I mean, I have known people that have really struggled with having a baby, like really, really, really struggled. And I feel so guilty for how I feel that I'm like, I hate that that's the way I feel, but it's not my fault. It's not my fault. And that's another thing of why I just don't want to ever be in that situation again. I'm a good man. I will say I am a great man, and I got myself through it. And Tilly doesn't want for anything, and she's a good kid. But do I have the strength if it happens again? No way.
I wonder where Tilly gets her resilience from.
Yeah, probably me. But I just laugh. Like, it's the only way I can get through things now, is to just not take life so serious, and just to make sure that it's happy. Yeah.
And you have a good man in your corner.
No, we do. Like, I mean, we're fulfilled. I don't feel like there's any piece missing from the jigsaw, So, I mean, what's the point in going looking for it if it's not missing?
So what does the next year look like for you co-parenting?
It's the same as it does now. Like, we do a great job, and I'm proud of him and I'm proud of me, the way we've coped. And, I mean, it wasn't easy for him, and definitely wasn't easy for me, but we got there. And I am proud of the situation that we're both in now, because we both picked great partners to be around Tilly. Anything from here is just a tough.
So tell me then about how COVID has hit you as a business,
Like, I mean, I don't know if you've seen my stories today, but I'm literally going through my diary from last year, putting through 2022. So to date, I've had 73 weddings gone. Yeah. Like, and you know what's great? I've lost only one in all those numbers, and I've given it to another good pal of mine who I would highly recommend as well. So I'm kind of lucky in that sense, I just feel so sorry. I think me and Paul got married in July 2019, and I literally think we got in there by the skin of our teeth. So COVID has really massively affected me and Paul, because we're both self-employed, and it's been challenging, like really, really tough. So hard, but like, I mean, everybody's in the same situation. So what is the point in letting it get in on your top? There's so many people in worse situations. Now, don't get me wrong, there is people that have probably done better from this, that they're in a better situation. But I mean, we just have to ride the storm. So I mean, I'll get there and I'll be that busy that I'll be like, whoa, God, why can't there be another lockdown?
Yeah, exactly. Give me a break.
But give me a break, because I'll have to split myself in three the way things are going. But listen, I'm just going to embrace and can't wait to get back to work. Can't wait.
So Tracy, thanks so much. We are doing this over Zoom, obviously in the current climate. I would have loved to sit down with you face to face, because as I said, I just loved your story and just everything about you. As I said, your face lit up when you talked about Paul, but also the fact that you've put your child first and foremost in something that could have been really difficult. And you've just made it such a smooth process for everybody involved. So thanks so much for sitting with me. Your page is the Makeup Mentor on Instagram, and people can follow you from there. So for me, thank you so much, and I'll talk to you soon.
Thanks for having me, Rebecca. I really enjoyed talking to you.
Good.
Really enjoyed talking to you. Thanks very much.
Thanks, Emil. Bye-bye.
Bye.